and welcome back to my channel. Today I have just been out to Hobbycraft and I have bought myself a set of Promarkers. It's a set of 12 and it comes with a colourless blender as well, which I believe is this one here at the top. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of swatch these with you guys and see how they work out. I've never used alcohol-based markers before, so this will be a bit of an experiment for me as well. I hope you enjoy. So as you can see, like I said, I've got the set of 12. There's a handy little color chart here, but I am going to swatch them to see what the actual ink color looks like. See if I can get my camera to focus. That's better. Yeah, so there's like a little swatch guide here, but I am going to swatch them myself to see what they look like. And here is the other 6 colors. So yeah, I'm excited. It also quite handily lists all the names of them on the back, again with the little swatch guide. They are dual-ended markers, so there is just a regular sort of tip on marker tip on one side and then like a flat tip on the other side. So let's get into these if I can and see what they're like. Oh, that's kind of cool. It kind of opens up like a book. It says it comes with a free blender and instructions, it says there. I can't get the camera to focus, sorry guys. Let's see what it says. Okay, so it's got a how-to instructions on the inside. It tells me that the markers will tend to bleed if used with thin, low-grade paper, so it suggests Winsor & Newton's own brand of marker paper. And it tells me how to use the blender, so this will be interesting. I'm going to swatch these in my sketchbook because I like this paper. It's quite good quality paper, so I'm going to get that ready and then we will swatch these together. Okay, so I am now ready. I have got my little swatch card that I've just drawn up here. I've taken the markers out of the set. I've got the instructions here just in case I want to reference them for any reason. Now the reason that I really wanted to try alcohol markers is because you can layer on the ink quite a bit. So you can get really nice sort of depths of color with it. So I'm going to try here now with the canary. And I'm just going to do one pass. Oh wow, that's really nice. And then I'm going to do a couple of passes over just so I can see what the ink looks like layered. So I'm going to do one here, that's 2. Okay, I should have just done 3, but I did 4 then instead, but that's fine. But that's really interesting, like you really can see like it's getting a nice depth of color there. And now the other side, which is like this really wide nib, which I think is more for like filling a big section of color. These are really nice on this paper though. There's a nice like ASMR feel to them and a nice ASMR sound to them, the quality as well. So this is the burnt orange color. Definitely a lot more kind of red than I would normally say it was an orange. No, I don't know, maybe it's not, maybe it's kind of okay. And then the white tip. It's really hard to get the angle right so that you guys can see what I'm doing in the video, so I apologize if my hand is blocking. I'm just going to flip over and see. So it is bleeding through just a little bit on this paper, which is fine. It's a cheap paper. You can see there where I started to make a different chart and I realized I ran out of room. So it does bleed through a little bit on this paper, so I am just going to take my tester scrap paper and just put it underneath for the rest of them. So it doesn't bleed through anymore on the pages. It has bled through actually one entire page of this notebook and almost through onto a second page. So that's why I'm going to put through just down this piece of paper, just so that it doesn't bleed through anymore. Now the one thing that I'm going to find that's going to really annoy me is I really want to like cap the ends of these, and it doesn't fit. I just know that that's going to bug me like later on about these markers. It's not like the be all end all of the world, it's just a personal preference, because I know that I will lose them otherwise. Also, I quite like this ruby red. This is a really nice color. Definitely very different from the burnt orange, which is now drying to a much more orange color than I thought it would. Oh, and that was my post that just came in, so I'm sorry if that caught on camera. But I do really like this canary yellow. I think that's a really pretty yellow color. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the first video that I'm doing like this ever. So I hope that this is something that you guys want to see. If it is, then make sure that you drop me a message in the comments and tell me that you want to see more of this type of videos, and I'll make sure that I put it down on my scheduler. Because yeah, I really enjoy watching these kind of videos. It really helps me to decide what kind of art supplies to buy, and so I thought it would be nice for me to do one as well, and to kind of give my opinions on the supplies. I should also probably add that I did buy these supplies myself. I've not been sponsored by Winsor & Newton to do this video. Although Winsor & Newton, if you are listening and if you do want to sponsor me, I wouldn't say no. Just saying. Yeah, I really quite like this palette. This is a really nice palette. I feel like this is a good basic palette for anybody who wants to start out with with alcohol markers, because it's got like a really good range of colors. That's a really pretty blue as well. I know I'm going to use a lot of that. That's really pretty. This is an indigo blue. I also really liked in this set that they had 2 different blues and 2 different greens, because I feel like that's something that gets overlooked sometimes. Oh wow. Oh, so this is like almost black. This is really nice. Oops. Didn't do that very well, did I? That's better. I am noticing that as these are drying, I'm seeing very little color difference in, like, the top lines are all done with 1 pass of the ink, the second lines are all done with 2, and the third lines are all done with 3. It's only really with the amethyst that I'm seeing sort of any real depth of color. All the other ones look pretty similar. I mean, it could also be this paper. There's no denying that. But yeah, it's interesting to see that in actual fact the amount of passes that you make with the ink doesn't seem to really be making that much of a difference. It does make a difference when you're laying it down. I can definitely see the difference when the color is being laid down, but then when the ink is drying, it seems to be drying pretty evenly. I mean, pretty much the same, depending, like, regardless of how many layers you're putting down. I also like that there's the number of the colors on the bottom, so that if you have a particular color that you want to buy and you only know it by the number, if you're in a different country, that's really helpful. Then you can go and pick them up from that local art store without knowing the language. I feel like that's something that you get with maybe the more expensive brands in general. I know Copic does it for sure. And there was a set of Copics in the store, but they were so expensive and I couldn't afford to buy them. These were £20 for the set of 12, which I thought was really reasonable. It works out at about £2 per marker. And as a start to get into alcohol markers, I feel like sometimes you don't need to go with the most expensive ones. You just want to get a feel for how it works. That's a really pretty brown as well. Okay, last two. So this is called Cool Grey number 4, which I quite like. I like that they must have an option for cool grays or warmer grays. Yeah, that's really nice. I quite like that actually. And the last one, just your standard black. Really useful, really nice rich black color actually, gives really good coverage. Sometimes you get markers that the black is a bit more like a very dark grey and it's very patchy, but this is quite nice. So I obviously need to get used to using the chisel tip. And then, in case anybody's wondering, the one that I'm not swatching is the colourless blender. So this is, in theory, should just pull the ink. It's kind of feathering on the side there. I don't know whether you guys can see that. There we go. So it's just kind of feathered on the side there of the blue. You can kind of see that. So it kind of gives this like a bit more of a watercolor effect. I don't know if I'd ever use the colorless blender. I think if I'm going to use markers, I'm probably just going to want to use the markers as intended. But let's draw something with these and give them a go, shall we? So I didn't want to overthink what to sketch for this video, so I just traced over one of my alphabet animals. Now I'm doing the alphabet animal series on Instagram, and I've specifically started this series to give me a chance to play around with new mediums, so this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Now I really enjoyed using these markers. They worked really nicely on the paper. I did use another piece of paper underneath it just to stop it from bleeding through onto my desk, but I thought that these worked really nicely. They blended really well. I did find that when the color looked like it was one solid color whilst it was wet, when it dried, it did dry a little bit patchy. I'm sure that's something that's going to come with time. I also tried using the colorless blender, as you can see here, and it didn't really work, so I had to go back in with the black pen to make his feet stand out a little bit more. In hindsight, I wish I had tried that out on a different piece of paper, but it's okay, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I've deliberately done this series so that I can experiment with new mediums. Overall, I really enjoyed using these markers. I thought that they were really nice and fun to use. They felt really comfortable in my hand as well, and that's something that's really important to me when it comes to pens. I also tried using the markers on the tail to do a bit more of like a feathery effect, and I thought that came out really nicely. There was a little bit more texture in there than there was in the main body, and I really enjoyed that. I found that when I had let the ink dry a little bit more, I was able to go back in and do a little bit more darker shading, which I think if I had done that on the swatches, then it would have worked a lot better. But overall, I was really pleased with these. So there we have it, guys. There's my final anteater illustration done in alcohol markers. I really do quite like these markers. I think they're really fun, and I definitely will be using these again. And as they come, I mean, like I said, the pack was pretty cheap. It comes out as £2 a marker, which is actually really, really reasonable. And you get the colorless blender as well. So yeah, I was really happy with these. I will definitely be getting these again. And I will be using them a lot more in my work. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you give me a thumbs up down below, and if you really like my content, then please make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you all next week in the next video. Bye!